that has now been a 3-week protest there being conducted by some of the workers at the University of Pretoria. And of course, they are demanding for that 7% wage increase. As the South African Union of Students, so what is your take on this protest we are seeing?
Good evening, and also good evening to your viewers and your listeners. Number one, we think obviously, or in fact, we've always stood in alliance with the workers, as we believe that the majority of our students are also children of the working class. We have also, unfortunately, ourselves been at the receiving end, and we know the brutality and the exploitation that is often meted out by the university management to students and to workers, particularly those that are cleaners and security guards. Therefore, we stand in undivided and unqualified support for the workers that are protesting and for our sister unions across the country. There are several institutions where there seems to be a standoff, where the workers have taken to the streets to make their demands known and to confront the brutality of university management.
And I mean, we've seen the employer offering these workers at least a 4% increase. They are demanding a 7% increase. Do you think the demands of the workers are fair?
They are absolutely fair, because when you look at the increments and the salaries that are paid to the executive, for instance, they cannot be justified. However, when it comes to the workers, it is always there's always a sort of tug of war. I will give you an example. You take it during COVID, for instance. COVID, institutions of higher learning did not necessarily incur any major costs because they were not paying for electricity, they were not paying for any other utilities that could have been used. But even in that year, they struggled and they refused to increase the wages of the workers. And as I'm speaking to you, majority of vice chancellors in the country are getting paid around on average of 5 million rands, 4 million rands, while the workers who are toiling, who leave their houses at 4 o'clock in the morning and get home at 10 o'clock at night, while they are toiling for peanuts. So we think a 7% increment is justified. In any case, even that 4% increment, it is below, or rather it is below the inflation and the inflation increases that we have seen in the last few years. So it shows that the management is not even willing to offset what would have been the erosion of the buying power based on just inflation alone, such that the workers at the very least do not lose their financial standing under these harsh economic conditions. So we think 7% is reasonable, and we think that the university is not willing to play ball. In fact, I stand to be corrected. I think that University of Pretoria initially, in any case, had proposed initially a 2% increase in contrast to the 7% increase that the workers were looking for. As I say, I stand to be corrected, but this also shows you the attitude of the management towards the working class.
And we've seen video clips making the rounds where some sort of force was used on the striking workers. And what is your appeal? They've since opened a case against the South African Police Service for using rubber bullets during this protest. What is your appeal to workers during this demonstration, which is now in its 3rd week, and now seeing this court action from the university?
We are saying they must stand strong and resolute, they must not be moved. All the tactics that have been employed by the institutions, sometimes being aided and abated by unconscious South African Police Service, we have first-hand experience of that brutality. We have been shot at, we have been arrested, we have been flogged, we have been beaten up, including by private security at the hands of university management, calling, for instance, for access into institutions of higher learning. So we have a direct and a personal experience of what they are going through, and we are saying they must remain resolute, and we're calling even on students to join with the workers based on our principle of the Student Worker Alliance, and we are saying they must not be moved, they must not be shaken, generally, as I have said before, institutions of higher learning have been characterized by this level of arrogance, exploitation, and brutality. We have seen some students losing their lives at the hands of institutions management and some unconscious and barbaric police that are untrained. So we are saying they must remain resolute up until that they are able to see a victory in the struggle which they are waging.
And what has been the sentiments from the students? I mean, they've also been affected by, this protest taking place at the University of Pretoria. Are they, some of them in support of this strike action?
There's a wide-ranging feeling amongst the student community regarding the protests. Some would be in support, some would not be in support, some would feel that they are either their liberties or their time, their study times or whatever, they have been affected. So, however, hence we're encouraging them to say that even in the past, we have seen the workers stand with us when we waged a war against the institutions for issues of exclusions of the poor and the working class. So we're appealing to them also that they must lend their support to the workers. The workers are in effect our parents, so they must lend their support. It is regrettable, obviously, that there has to be any adverse impact either on teaching and learning or any other services that will be provided to the benefit of students. But however, when we weigh the impact of the livelihoods of the workers vis-a-vis losing a few days either of teaching and learning or an inconvenience of certain gates being closed and students having to use other facilities, etc. We think those two things do not compare. But as we say, obviously, it is regrettable that we have to be. It is also regrettable that those institutions have become militarized, where universities have hired hundreds of bogus private security companies that are standing armed at every corner of the institutions. It is regrettable, but we have to stand with the workers and the working class.
Asive, thank you so much for your time this evening here at SABC News. That is Asive Dlanjwa. He is the spokesperson of the South African Union of Students.